I want to try to give you a list of and show you also the things that I used of what I would call, I guess, essential supplies needed for winter sowing. Obviously, the first thing to be able to sow anything, you have to have seeds. I bought my seeds from several different online sources. I bought from Johnny's Selected Seeds. Sorry, I'm going to try to do better with my camera here. I bought from Johnny's Selected Seeds online. I think it's just johnnysseeds.com. They have really good information on the packets, not really any pictures on the packets, but they have decent pictures online. Then there was another company that I found here recently from a recommendation from someone online called Swallowtail Garden Seeds. And I think that's also the name of their website. Yes, swallowtailgardenseeds.com. And their packets have a good amount of information. They also don't have pictures, but that's okay. Then a couple of the other sources that I used is Botanical Interests, and their packages all have really pretty but watercolor versions of a picture on the packets. So really nice to look at, but not real pictures. Also has lots of information both on the back of the packet and if you open up the packet on the inside. This company also was very nice and sent out a free thank you. That's what these are, a thank you packet of tall sunflower seeds. I have a bunch of these because I kept finding new things to order. At one point, they also had free shipping. I'm not sure if that is always or if it was just for a period of time. Another location or source that I had for seeds was Baker Creek. And I've got, excuse all the mess out here in the garage, trying to get better organized. But another source was Baker Creek. And they have really nice packaging in that it has a nice, very representative, I guess, I'm not sure if that's how you would say that word, picture of what it would look like. And their website, though, is not called Baker Creek. It is rareseeds.com. So I got several things from them. And I feel like there was one other place that I got seeds from, and I don't know if I have any out here, but another source that I found for seeds was called Hazards. And I will try, if I can, to link all of these in the bottom. Let me see if I have a Hazards here. Here we go. So Hazards, seeds, and I am not sure. I don't think they put their website on here. So it has some information on it. They had some things that I wasn't able to find in some other sources. So they had some neat things. So like Baptisia, although I think you could find that other places, but they had a different type of Veronica that was blue that I hadn't found, blue Veronica. And then the Baptisia, and I can't remember, there was one other thing that they had that I was really interested in. So just got those recently. If I remember any other sources for seeds that I used, I will put that information either on the screen or if I can provide a link, I will do that. So those are the places where I got my seeds. So that's obviously important. I also, you need some kind of something to mark things with. So I think I've mentioned this before. This garden marker was highly recommended by lots of people. Just got it off of Amazon. It's literally called garden marker. It's supposed to be one that things don't disappear due to sun or rain. So we'll see. I use this to mark by all my containers with a number in 2 or 3 different places on the containers. I also use this to make a few of my tags, because then that's another thing. I have put a tag inside every container with the name on both sides. These were filled out using a oil-based marker. That was the other thing that some sources recommended. So I bought a pack on Amazon that this brand that had multiple colors in it, and I just used the black. I have found some other tags that I used for fall, just putting some things directly out into the ground. I used a different kind of tag, which, by the way, the tags came from Amazon, just like a pack of 200. I also got some of these to use for things that I was putting directly in the ground, so like direct seeding. And I have found that things that I used these last year for things I had started inside. The Sharpie marker completely gone. And some of the things I did in the fall, I tried to be cute with all my different colors. Anything that was a lighter color has started to disappear with these paint markers. So I am not sure how well these will hold up, but I'm hoping the tags being inside the containers, that these will still have their name on them in the spring, because I have done a lot of containers. I really don't want to be trying to guess what is in all of them. So that's why I have numbered them with the garden marker. I have also put a tag inside with the name. And then the third way, and obviously you wouldn't have to necessarily do all of this, especially if you don't do as many, I made stickers using full sheets of sticker paper, and then I put a self-adhesive piece of lamination over the top of it. You could accomplish probably the same thing with clear packing tape. I just already had it because being a teacher, sometimes I make stickers for things at school. So I have also put a sticker with the name on it on every container, trying to cover all my bases. So those are some basic supplies for getting organized. I also made a spreadsheet with the name, and I put a copy of the picture I just copied off of the websites. I don't hope that's not some sort of copyright thing. And then some basic information like whether it needs sun or shade, how high it should get, what color, that sort of thing, because I'm going to use this because I've done so many things. I'm going to be hopeful that they're all going to sprout at least a few sprouts and get at least a few plants out of each one. I'm going to need to spend some time here during the rest of the winter figuring out where I'm going to plant everything. So this, I think, would be really helpful. And obviously, if you're not doing quite as big of a quantity as I am, you wouldn't have to do it on a spreadsheet. You could just do it on a piece of notebook paper to keep track of things. So another item that I have found very handy are these garden snips, and I got these off of Amazon. I believe the brand is Corona. Yeah, so from Amazon, and these have been fabulous for a couple of things. I have used these when I'm cutting around to cut the opening on the milk jugs, and I'm all out of milk jugs, but that's in another video where I drilled one hole to the side of the handle and then used that hole to get into and go around. It gave me a lot better control. I had much better cuts and straighter cuts than using the box cutter that I tried on the first jug. Obviously you need containers, so that's another critical supply item. I used a lot of milk jugs. I drink a lot of milk, so I had some milk jugs for me, but then I also found the Starbucks down the street was willing for a while to save me their jugs. But I am also using just leftover nursery pots. On the white ones, I can write on them with my garden marker for the numbering. For these, if you have the darker ones, I am taking white duct tape. So duct tape is something else that you would need for milk jugs for sure. And I'm just writing the numbers on this white duct tape, and then I'll tape them onto the containers. You also, if you're doing milk jugs, for sure need some kind of duct tape or way to close up where you've cut around the container. I used a whole roll. I was able to do quite a lot of jugs with one roll of a black all-weather type of duct tape. This was some duct tape that I had just in my garage, so I'm using this now if I have to duct tape anything because I wanted to save the white for labeling. But on the containers that I use from the nursery, I don't really use tape, although I might use a little bit. What I'm going to do on those, and again, this is in another video, is I put sorry, that's a little awkward angle. I put a plastic bag over it. So if you're doing something in containers, you need something to put over the top. What I have used are little 4-gallon plastic bags that I, again, got off of Amazon. Doesn't really matter where you get them, but I just got these little clear plastic trash bags, and I put that over the top of the nursery container. And then I also got some big rubber bands, again, off of, well, I actually got one bag from somewhere else, but I know I got one bag on Amazon. So it's the Alliance brand. I know that at least, I think they still are, used to be made in America, actually in the state where I'm from, not far from where I grew up. So I thought, let me just support. It doesn't matter where the rubber bands come from or whatever, but these are 7-inch rubber bands because I wanted to make sure they could fit around my bigger containers. They also worked just fine on smaller ones. I just doubled them up. So that would be something, you need something if you're going to have nursery containers you're using to secure some plastic. So rubber bands, but I think I'm going to also make sure that it stays tight across the top using a little bit of tape. So again, you would still need some tape possibly. Plus I have heard the rubber bands throughout the winter that the rubber can break down and might snap. So I want to be double careful so that once things start sprouting, I don't want that plastic to fall down and touch little teeny tiny baby new seedlings, because then if there's a frost, it could damage them. You also obviously would need potting mix. I found some good deals on the bags and also some shipping or no charging on shipping. I've been using Espoma organic potting mix. So far, I have used, I'll figure it out exactly, but I think I've used 5 1 cubic foot bags plus 3 cubic foot bags, and that has done 158 containers for me plus 10 containers for my neighbor. There's still a little bit left here, so you could say that we easily were able to get, what is that, 170-ish, maybe a few more, with 14 cubic feet of soil. So I think it works out to around 24 to 30, depending on how full you're doing your containers per 2 cubic foot bag if you get the bigger bags. I have a bag of Miracle-Gro potting mix for if I run out, because I probably will. But I also may save this for some summer planters, in which case I'll just buy some more of the Espoma. I have also been using a little bit of this in the potting mix just because I know I may not get everything planted as quickly as I should. And so the new baby plants might need a little bit of something. If you're going to be able to plant right away, you wouldn't probably need something like this. But I have used, that is what I've used so far. It's a 125-pound bag, I think. And I still have some left, so yeah, 25 pounds. So that has done quite a few containers, but you wouldn't have to have that as a supply. And you want to have something to be able to add water to your mix, so that can be anything. At one point I was using just a pitcher. You could have a big bucket. Just depends on how much you're doing at one time. You wouldn't have to have necessarily something exactly like this, but I would recommend having something, whether it's just a bucket or a bigger container. You're going to want to, well, depending on the method you use. I am using a method where I moisten and get my mix damp before I put it in the containers. That way I know that I've got it packed in, or not packed, but I've got enough in there and it's not going to settle and be too low, because you want to make sure you have at least 3 to 4 inches of soil to provide enough room and also to have the right insulating properties. So I am getting my soil damp enough first. If you weren't going to do that, if you were going to just put the soil in, I know some people put their soil in and then run water into the container, maybe in the kitchen sink or wherever, then maybe you wouldn't need some kind of box or bucket to do this. But I have found this to be super handy. So this is just a concrete mixing container tub from Home Depot. It was not very expensive. I think it was $8-ish possibly. And this is actually made for like potting up things. And I think I also got this from Home Depot. Again, it wasn't super expensive because I know I'm going to be using it a lot. I felt like it was a worthwhile investment, even if it was 20 something dollars. If I can find the links for these and I'm able to link them below, I will do that. So these I have found very helpful to actually have both, especially with as many containers as I've been doing, because I mix up the soil here, I put my containers over here. It just keeps things a little cleaner and neater. I also have found it handy. You wouldn't have to have something like this. You absolutely could just use your hands. But I have found this to be handy to keep this hand, when I've got my gloves on, to keep this glove a little less gross and yucky. I use this to help mix up the water with my soil. So that brings me to having some kind of garden gloves. This is, again, a total personal preference. I love digging in the dirt and doing gardening things, but I don't love when my hands get super junky and dirty, and I especially don't love what it sometimes does to my nails. They look really bad right now. But they're a lot cleaner than they were last night when I was doing this. So I just like to try to preserve that a little bit, and so that's where I like to have a decent pair of gloves. But when you're mixing this up and it's wet, it will get your gloves pretty yucky. So that's just something to keep in mind. And I think that's the list. If I think of something else that you might want to have, I will add a note on the screen. But I think those are all of the essential supplies. You might have noticed I do have a bag of vermiculite on my table here. I'm not sure how helpful that is. I've seen some people in their winter sowing information talk about adding this to the top. Others don't. I don't know if it helps or not. I've put it on a few of my things, especially I tried to be aware if I had things that were bigger seeds, because I'm not shoving my seeds into the soil at all. I figure the freezing and thawing will help the seeds go down a little bit if it's necessary. That may be a mistake. We'll find out in the spring. But the things I've done where the seeds are bigger, typically those are the seeds that you would stick down into the soil. So I have tried to put a little thin layer of vermiculite on the top of my containers when they were larger seeds. Again, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but vermiculite basically helps to keep the moisture level a little more stable in your containers. I definitely have used it last year when I was seed starting inside, and I feel like it did help keep the moisture levels a little more stable to use that. So that is something that you can use. Some people also, I think, might mix it in with their soil, but I think really actually that's more often perlite. That's probably what these some of these little light colored bits are that you see. That's they're similar materials, but the perlite helps with moisture situations more in the dirt, whereas I think vermiculite's maybe a little better on top. I could be completely wrong. Feel free to comment. So that is, I believe, the list of essential supplies. Again, if I think of anything else, I'll add it below in the description. Thanks for joining me here in Aunt Susan's garden. I thought of one other thing. I thought I would just add it on real quick. These landscape staples. I bought some 6-inch landscape staples. I didn't end up needing very many, but if you have to use containers, like nursery containers or some kind of container that is a little shorter, where you only have enough room to get your 4 inches of soil and then you're pretty much to the top of the container, what I did is I put some of these inside along the edge of the container around the rim, put a couple of these, you could put more, and then put my plastic over top, and this then gave some headroom for when the little seedlings start to grow. This will allow them to have some space between the top of the soil and the bottom of the plastic. So if you have to use containers that don't allow much headroom, this could be a solution.